Hey everyone, welcome back to Keeping Up with the Chaldeans. I am Junior Bindu along with my co-host Anthony Toma, and today we're kicking off our show with a little different angle than what we normally do. Today we brought a panel of five unique guests, each one with their own knowledge and experience in the addiction and opiate crisis that we face in our community along with the nation right now currently. Today, so you know as viewers, we're here to talk about the biggest elephant in the room, not only in our community but through other homes throughout, the country. It just seems to be that the whole stigma behind addiction is just leveled to say when it's drug addiction, it's such a dirty thing for you to look at. But it's not just that. We're just here to talk about addiction as a broad generalization. It's just any type of it is just not good. Today we have five guests that each have experienced in their own way through these problems that we're facing. So we're going to lead into our first guest to tell you who he is and explain a little bit about himself until we get to our fifth guest. Good to have you on, everyone.
Thank you, Junior.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rami Jamil. I am 28 years old. I'm a former heroin addict. I believe that I'm a recovered addict. I spent years in isolation to get myself better. I now am 28 years old. I got into drugs at the age of 14. It was all fun, smoking weed, right? Taking ecstasy, getting to the next level, going to rehabs, meeting people, getting into heroin. So by 19, got out of it. By the time I got out of my rehab and behavioral modification, 2 years later, I was 21. Now 7 years later, 28. Have a family, 2 beautiful girls, and I had the opportunity to, God rest his soul, have my dad see his first grandchild. So
God bless. God bless.
That was awesome.
Dunya?
Hi, so my name's Dunya Barash. I work at Care of Southeastern Michigan. I'm a social worker by degree. Really, our mission and my mission in the community is to talk about this as much as we can, reduce stigma, try and come up with solutions in the community, and that only happens if we kind of come together and talk about this problem.
Thank you. Lieutenant Mario?
Lieutenant Mario Bastianelli with the Sterling Heights Police Department. Currently I'm in charge of different aspects of the police department, but part of it is Community Service Bureau. I'm also the president of the Sterling Heights Drug Free Coalition, which is a nonprofit with Sterling Heights. I work with CARE very closely, and we provide education resources for any substance abuse issues in the community.
Awesome, thank you. Stephanie Nofar?
Hi, my name is Stephanie Nofar. I'm a clinical therapist. I have my own private practice in Sterling Heights called Hope Not Counseling. I specialize in addictions, but I also see all general mental health.
Thank you. And Rayeda Kallabat?
Hi, my name is Rayeda Kallabat. I am Brandon Kallabat's mom that passed away due to struggling with drugs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And it's awesome to have each and every one of you on. It's awesome to have you on, not for the circumstances you face, because we can't categorize that as awesome, but it's awesome that you guys have the power to do what you do every day, to wake up every day, to be able to handle what you do. One, being on the side of the fence that you're on, or we're on, both in what you've faced and now your road to recovery.
Parents especially.
And parents especially, what they deal as a whole, right? You three have your own dealings that you see every day. It can take its toll. It's not the easiest thing that you guys get to see and work with every day. We commend you because you have put the time and the effort to save lives. That's huge. That's a big thing. What I'd like to talk about is from your aspect of how things began, what started this whole process for you, and what began the road to recovery for you as an individual, and then we'll lead into what you guys offer and some of the help that that you guys give as a community.
Certainly. So it all started a long time ago, right? I'm talking to hopefully a lot of people that grew up like myself. And we grew up in a little bit of a different, I'm a first generation person, so our parents were a little different, right? So I'll take you back a little further. My dad married my mom in 1989 or 90 and brought her here from Baghdad. My dad had been here since the 70s.
Sure.
So I was raised Arabic as a first language. I was a good kid, right? Everything was fine. We moved from Southfield to West Bloomfield. Used to work at the liquor store with my dad. He was my hero, my God. My mom was the greatest mom in the world. Best parents. However, I will tell you one thing, and this is nothing against parents at all. I love my parents. They're the greatest in the world. But we have to say what it is, because I spent 2 years learning the behavioral modification process, going up the steps to learn what I needed to do to have the structure and understand the exact reason why I did it and how not to ever do it again and how to become successful. So I went to a place called Habilitat. It's the School of Survival. A good friend of mine had told my mom had met him, and he sent me there. One-way ticket. Went with my dad. I tried to leave immediately. Immediately, I tried to leave.
Sure.
Because I had gotten into heroin by 19. It was 14 to 19. It was just smoking weed, ecstasy pills, and 50, 60 Norcos a day, and then shooting up 15, 16 times a day at the age of 18 to 19, which is way too much and insane. My arms were black, each vein, like each vein down. You have 3 main
Sure.
veins. Horrible. I'm just a kid. I believe I had a lot of pressure on me. I was told you can be a doctor, lawyer, garbage man. I'm sure a lot of people have been told that. I believe that there were some things where, Pops is at DOA till 3 a.m., you don't see him. That's kind of tough, You want someone to come to a basketball game for you. Those things are important. We have to be involved with our kids a lot. It's a different generation now. It's
Sure.
a different world. We have to know what they're doing. We have to be really with their friends. We got to be on the PTA. I remember at Our Lady of Refuge, the PTA, no one's Chaldean parents were there.
Sure.
No one's were.
I went there,
No,
so I know what you're saying.
I remember, and I remember St. Mary's too. It's the funniest thing.
I
Like
went
they
there,
never.
too.
I went there. Yeah. So you went there too. You get it. So it's just like so that has a lot to do with it, because at that pivotal point when you're 16 and then you're experimenting and you took the E and you haven't gotten to the Vicodins yet, or maybe you just took 2, right? But you could channel that addictive behavior. I call it a personality.
Sure.
Right. So that personality itself, what it is, it can be channeled into something. So, fast forward to where I was at, 10,000 miles away, most isolated place in the world,
Sure.
Hawaii, Oahu. Sounds great, right?
Yep.
Sounds beautiful. It is beautiful to look at outside, but this place is horrible. It's a nightmare. It's actually, there's probably about 115 people. It doesn't cost money. It's not a place that teaches. It's a disease. And I'll get into that a little bit later. I know that there are things that are in the brain and whatnot. I get that. And it's a place that sincerely teaches you structure and kicks your ass and makes you take accountability for all of your actions. You do not blame anyone but yourself. Like I said earlier, we were having a conversation. Nobody puts a gun to your head. Nobody does. We all make our decisions. Some might be harder than others.
Sure.
It might take more restraint, but there are ways to learn that. So
Question for you, Rami.
Yeah.
But just take a step back. At this point in time, were your parents aware of what was going on? Did they get wind of it?
yeah,
What was it you told them, or did they start seeing signs? Because let's
They
be
knew.
real, we're first generation. Some of our parents weren't accustomed to what signs to look for, because they weren't evolved yet enough to understand, what
they probably thought it was more weed,
Okay.
especially, right? Like,
Yep.
especially when I got into the heroin, fall asleep on the couch, right?
Sure.
Like, not out, whatever.
Yep.
Probably they thought that, but then no, my cousins did tell, like I told my aunt, I asked my parents for help. I went to rehab a few times. I went to Maple Grove at 18.
So real
and then
quick
Brighton
before
at
you
18.
get to that, you
Yeah.
asked for help.
Yeah.
Reaction was what? Because that's
Reaction
the hardest
was-
part. It's more emotional than it is logical. So what was the
I
reaction?
mean, it was embarrassing. My mom's a pharmacist, and she knew exactly what the hell I was doing. I
Sure.
took one of her fentanyl patches when she had a freaking lumbar fusion surgery.
Sure.
What a crazy thing. So, I mean, it's just,
And fentanyl is a highly addictive.
yeah, I was already.
Painkiller, but it's more that it's an elephant tranquilizer, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken, right? If you just want to just touch on fentanyl real
Yeah,
quick.
so I would say the fentanyl that's laced with heroin
Yes.
is not the same as the fentanyl
Sure.
that is
Good.
in the pharmacy or given at hospitals.
Okay.
It's two different things. The fentanyl on the streets that's laced in heroin is
Yes.
synthetic,
Okay.
Coming from
and that's
Mexico.
what's like really causing people to continue to overdose. The stuff that the hospital gives you is
Yep.
totally different.
Thank
Yes.
you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And to this day, I still will not touch an opiate because I know how addictive it is.
Sure.
And that is the one that, like, it really is extremely addictive. Do I have some beers once in a while? I do. I'm a recovered addict. I make decisions.
Sure.
Right? I have a family. I own 2 homes. I had a job at Quicken for 8 years now. I do my own mortgage thing. And I became this man because of that program. And that program, what they did to us was not let us see our parents. Put us in bunk beds with other guys that were there to get out of a program called Hope, right? We've got programs like Hope Not Handcuffs, right?
Yep.
Which is awesome. So these guys would have 10-year sentences for something called ICE, right? It's meth. they're tatted up, face to toe, and you're, you and 10 other people from Utah or wherever are, there for heroin, right?
Yep.
So I'm there. My dad left. He didn't let me come back and leave. They shave your head immediately. They humilify you. They humiliate you, bring you down to earth. Because I had a lot of confidence,
Yeah.
You think you're a big deal. Your dad gets you a Maxima when you're 18. You think you're all that. Your dad's got a store. I can have money. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you have this
So
stupid,
you're getting tough love.
stupid mindset.
You're
Yes.
getting tough love from this facility.
Extreme tough
Okay,
love. And my
that-
parents couldn't give that to me, no matter what.
Sure.
They love me too much. It's too hard. I couldn't do it to my two daughters.
Right.
I couldn't.
Right.
And someone else needed to tell me how big of a piece of shit I was. And I needed to learn that every day.
Why do you feel, quote, you were a piece of shit? And the reason I say that is, and I don't mean to say like, okay, you're being hard on yourself, but we from the outside I don't want to perceive somebody sitting across from me as, I just look at it.
Well, I was.
Okay.
And you have to. You got to take accountability. You have to be as accountable as possible. Because if you're not, then you're not taking it seriously. Because I stole one of my mom's diamond necklaces. I remember pawning it off. I mean, it was beautiful. I remember her crying. Huh?
Did you ever overdose?
You know what? I don't know. I think my body was made for it. I was doing 1.5 grams a day. I've watched friends overdose. I've introduced it to some friends. It's horrible.
Sure.
After I came home, there was a kid that was a friend of mine. He was gone, right?
Wow.
And just recently, a friend of mine that I had met is gone now too.
Sure.
So essentially, what it is restructuring your brain,
Right.
channeling that behavior to something else,
Sure.
and not being in your same environment. So what I went through was very tough. It was 4 hours and a half of sleep a night. The first 6 months, you're just cleaning around. You can't talk to girls. You can't talk to your parents till 6 months. And you're just in jail bunk beds upstairs.
Sure.
You got to get up at a certain time, aerobics, this and that. And then what they do is they got me into after 6 months, you get into re-entry into the world. But you're with people, so you're not really doing anything besides you're going in a truck, and whether you're doing masonry or landscaping, whatever it is, that's where they assign you to. That's how they make their money. And we did Christmas tree sales in December. We actually did Barack Obama's Christmas tree. I remember it was like 50 feet long. Yeah, because he lived in Kaneohe, and we were Kailua, and we were in Kaneohe by a Marine Corps base, which was cool. That was one of the cool things. And then, I just I moved my way up. It was very hard, I miss my family a lot still. I love my parents very much. Like,
Sure.
I remember crying, calling my girlfriend at the time, and my mom was at home when I was going to, before Habilitat. I was 18, 19. I said, Deanna, I just took all these cottons, old ones, just to try to get a little high. It's not working. Please take me to Maple Grove and call my mom and tell her. So I went there, and then right after that, I was just one-way ticket to Hawaii.
Did you have communication with family while you were there, or were they just making you disassociate from everything and anything to do with back home?
A 10-minute phone call after 6 months being there, and then I got to see my parents twice, just on my birthdays.
And is that needed? Is that needed? The separation, I'm saying, is it needed in recovery?
It is absolutely needed, because your parents cannot. They unconditionally love you. I unconditionally love my children. I will die for my child.
Sure.
Right? Just like my parents, as you have said that a million times, please God, take my life instead of my child, right?
Sure.
I would say that right now if it was my child. So it's very hard to do it if you're not proactive when they're at a young age. Depends how old they are. If they're 18, 19, 20, no, they're going to need to go somewhere to get their ass kicked and go far away. And it can't be an easy program where, hey, you know what? It's a disease and you may relapse. No, you cannot relapse.
Sure.
Stick with something. No.
Sure.
I think also when Brandon used to go to rehab, and we would have visitation rights, but we wouldn't go visit him only because I know he would ask us, I want to come home, or we want to come home because,
Sure.
that I think that's why maybe your parents wouldn't come, or they
They
wouldn't.
did. No, they came as much as they
sorry,
could.
they did.
They weren't allowed.
They weren't allowed, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
why
That's
the
why.
facilities would
Of
not
course,
do
the
that.
second time
Do
I
you
left
recommend
after
that?
they came.
You as a mom, do you recommend staying away and let the work just be done?
I do recommend that, because as a mother,
Sure.
you would want to, when you see your child
Yeah.
struggling and, Mom,
Yeah.
please, even on the phone,
Yeah.
when you would talk to them, Mom, I want to come home. Mom,
Yeah.
they don't, you start feeling sorry for them, food.
They're
or,
giving you,
you
what
know,
I've been
like-
told is they're giving you, you're giving them, there's a reason that you're being given now to okay it.
Yeah.
Okay, you're saying, okay, it's my son, and I'm looking from a different perspective. We're gonna work it. We're gonna help him out. I've been in a friend situation, but with kids, it's different. You guys have that blood bond,
Yeah.
so it's a different.
And they get angry, and if you don't go visit, oh, you had this weekend to come visit us, you didn't come, you don't love me, and
But that's okay though, right?
That's okay.
And
Because
coming
they try
from
to make
you-
you feel,
And coming from you, who's experienced it, who's alive today to be able to say it,
Yeah.
is that okay? Is that okay for us as friends to abandon you? Is it okay? We're not
Absolutely.
abandoning you.
Absolutely.
We're walking away
Absolutely.
for the moment.
You
okay?
are who you surround yourself with, right?
Sure,
So
yeah.
who are you surrounding yourself with when you're doing drugs? So at the end of the day, absolutely. And yeah, my cousins did tell on me, and I'm glad they did. And my parents already knew, but the severity of it was good. When people did tell on me, and a lot of people knew because I was one of the first people to. This was like 2009, and I was
Sure.
just a little kid,
Sure.
and I was already
Yeah.
doing heroin. It's
Yeah.
insane,
Yeah.
right?
So any of you want to kind of help us
comment?
unpack
Unpack it a
what
little?
what
Yeah,
you
what-
I'll
said?
get back
I was
to
gonna
it.
say if you want to.
My thought, and one of the things that we tell parents and families and stuff like that is, just like the addict is addicted to the drug, you're addicted to that person and addicted to saving them, and every single time when they want, taking care of them, all these different things, like
Great way of
we
putting it.
fall into that, and it doesn't matter if it's drugs or whatever it is.
Sure.
You're addicted to that person, and so
Yes.
you need to take a step back and think, like, what is it that I need to do for myself so they can get better?
Okay.
Because the only time families get healthy is when the addict gets healthy is when the family does.
Mhm.
And so it's good to have unconditional love. There's nothing
Sure.
wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with picking up the phone. There is something wrong maybe, or something to think about is, am I paying their phone bill?
Yeah.
Am
Enabling.
am I enabling those behaviors? But there's nothing wrong with
Love.
picking up or love or different things like that.
And opening up. That's
Yeah.
a hard part we have in our community. And Lieutenant Mario touched on that, earlier, and we'll get into that, but it's such a quiet thing that we don't want to speak about. And I want to touch on that because addiction is addiction, which is what we talked about earlier. It doesn't matter if a classification is, say, because I stick a needle in my arm or I put $100,000 down on a table to gamble,
Yeah.
you have a problem, okay? And the severity of the problem, you can't say, oh, because this one's going to lead to I'm a piece of shit or I just don't care about everybody around me. Your addiction leads to some destruction, any which way possible. You gamble, you can lose your family. You can lose your kids' meals, the clothes on their back, a house. That's destruction. You're now breaking down something you built, right? So
And even if you're destroying yourself,
yes,
in turn, you are destroying your families, your parents,
your whole
people
Everyone
surrounding.
around you.
everyone that loves you is still
Mhm.
gonna. It's still, it's a part of suffering. Through
So
with
from
them.
the both of you who deal with this and deal with your own sides of whether you're organizing to help on a community level or if you're dealing with hope and counseling, on the two of you, with what he's saying, walk away? Is that what you like? What do you guys recommend then in these cases? How do parents, brothers, sisters, how do you deal with that? Like, for what do you do on that side of the fence?
Well, I definitely think that there's multiple pathways to recovery.
It's relative.
Like
I'd say
there
it's
really is multiple pathways. Certain people that work for him, and for other people that might not work.
Right.
For example, if we have someone who's 40 years old that has a family, he can't not work, he can't do all these different things. Maybe medicated assisted treatment is
Mhm.
something that
Sure.
will work for him because he can't go away at 19 to another country to get help.
Of course.
Everybody has like a different pathway, and I think that's one of the things that we have to take into consideration.
And most families
Yeah.
go through a whole lot of different ways.
Yes.
There's never just like one way.
Right, case by
you know?
case, we would say.
Exactly.
What-
Some people respond
Mhm.
really well to tough love. Some people don't at all, and then so you have to show them that softer love.
Depends on the
Or-
person.
Yeah.
It really depends on the person. And if they're
Exactly.
15, 16 smoking weed, I would just say, you know what, mom, dad, spend time with them all day.
Yeah.
And then you could probably fix it right there.
Which is big.
Lieutenant Mario, can you bring something to the?
Yeah, what I would say, I'm listening to you guys, it's interesting to get your perspective on stuff, but I think a lot of the problem also, I think, with your community is, I don't think you guys realize the resources that are out there. I don't think just with your community, but the community in general, right?
Yep.
I'm finding, being on this side of the table of the police department of doing the community outreach stuff, is that people aren't truly aware of what's out there, and or in your community, of realizing that the police department, we're here to help you, right?
Right.
So anytime that you guys know of somebody that's maybe selling some kind of drugs or narcotics that are affecting your community, or you have a family member that overdoses, and we come to your house to help you or help your loved one, instead of maybe not saying anything or putting up that wall of barrier that, hey, we're embarrassed and we don't want to provide any information to the police department, you realize you only hurt yourself and your own community, because these are the people that are affecting your community, right?
Sure.
You want to get your loved one into get help one way or another, right?
Sure.
But you have information already there. A lot of times you know who they're buying the drugs from.
Yes.
A lot of times you know where they're going to get their drugs, right?
Yep.
You can provide that information to the police department, and it can stay confidential. That's the biggest thing you guys realize. It can be confidential.
Sure.
This whole stigma that you'll be a snitch if you don't tell something to the police department,
Yep.
or if you do say something, you work with the police. You're only doing yourself a disjustice, right?
Yes.
Well, and our future, like our future kids, our future loved ones,
Yeah.
like we are still keeping those things out there.
But I guess the one thing I really want to explain to your listeners and to you guys is that this doesn't just affect your community. It's
Sure.
not just the Chaldeans.
No.
It's everyone. It's every city.
Yes.
It affects everyone.
Yes.
And with us impacting the police department, we do everything we can. We're not just about going out and arresting people, right? People that have an addiction. We're not just about, we're just going to throw you in jail. We want to get you help. We want to get you resources, right? We want to go after the people that are selling this poison to our public,
Sure.
right? It affects everybody. So with the police department in Sterling Heights, and what I think I want to get across is that we do this as like kind of a two-prong approach. That's where we've kind of attacked this problem, right?
Mhm.
One thing is we have our enforcement side. We have our undercover officers that are out there trying to go after the people that are selling drugs,
Sure.
right? We have that. We have officers that are assigned to federal agencies. They're doing the same thing on a bigger scale, going after the people that are selling. On the other aspect, we realized, look, every police department is a little bit different, what resources they have to provide. It's a very taxing problem. This is a very expensive problem for cities to deal with. Still a main priority.
Sure.
So with Sterling Heights Police Department, the other prong of attack is providing resources and education. So we do the Sterling Heights Drug Free Coalition, which is providing the resources and education and letting people, educating them, hey, these resources are out here for help.
Right.
You can come to us. You can come to our meetings. Our meetings, the coalition, are open to the public. Anyone can come, learn, be a part of it, right? Big thing with the Sterling Heights Drug Free Coalition, our saying is, be a part of the solution.
Sure.
So, but that takes people to be involved.
Right.
You can't sit back and say, oh, well, so it's somebody else's problem. They can fix it. No, it's everybody's problem. Because at some point in time, and I say this to my officers also, and I keep them kind of in check with this, is that it may not be on your doorstep today. Besides what we do on our law enforcement, we deal with it every day. People overdose, everything else. But wait till it hits you personally,
It's
or
coming.
it's someone that you know,
Yeah.
your loved one, your
Good chance.
family,
Yep.
and that kind of puts things. It changes.
Sure.
That makes sense, right?
Because it's coming, right?
Good
At the end of the day,
Absolutely.
somehow, some way, it's
Yeah.
coming. And I want to touch on two things that you said. One is, as law enforcement, people really tend to not realize what you guys do. They're just arresting people or they're writing tickets. Bullshit. You guys have started programs that I learned about 4 years ago, Hope Not Handcuffs, okay?
Yes.
Which I commend you guys for it. Started by FAN, which is Families Against Narcotics.
Yes.
And the program is based to say we don't just want to lock you up anymore. We now have the mental understanding that, like, we've got to deal with you on a mindset here, not handcuffs, not put you and lock you in jail. Because all you're doing is, from what I've understood, because I've had family, and I had one who we just lost a week ago, but when you put them in jail, your addiction is still there, right? Your cravings are still there. So it's either sometimes you can even get them when you're in jail, like, there's no denying it because their stuff still infiltrates the jail cells and gets in there, right?
Absolutely.
Guys would leave our program to go back to jail and just say screw it. Big, tough-looking guys.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna get their method.
They're going to be able to get it in there because sometimes, it was able. But not to put that stigma behind. Let's
Crazy.
talk about the good side is that Hope's Not Handcuffs helps the community by dealing with the problem. Not by masking it, throwing them in jail, and thinking that's going to solve the problem.
Let me touch on that. So, Hope's Not Handcuffs is a great program, right?
Yes.
But it's a great program. It's through FAN, Families
Sure.
Against Narcotics, and there's a lot of police departments. Not every police department, but a lot of police departments are involved in this program.
Yes.
Where somebody, if they're looking for help, what they do is they come into the police department.
Yep.
They say, look, I have an addiction. I want to get some help, and then we facilitate that connection with FAN and Hope's Not Handcuffs, and then they get put into a rehabilitation place.
Sure.
That's great. It's fantastic. It was a great first step. But the problem I think we're feeling with this is we're being reactive and not proactive, right? Being proactive when there's a problem. So everyone's learning with this. FAN, CARE, the police departments, fire departments. So now what we're implementing, and we're learning off of other states that have been hit with a more severe epidemic, as it's affecting everyone, but they've already started programs in different states to being proactive. So what we're actually currently doing, we're putting together right now as we speak, and it's through FAN. They obtained a grant, a federal grant, that puts together a team. It's a police officer, a nurse, and a peer recovery coach. And what we do is now, after somebody overdoses, right, as of a month ago, the police department, we didn't do anything, right? Somebody overdosed, we bring them back from one overdose, we take them to the hospital, say, see you later. They go off to the hospital. Maybe they get resources from the hospitals, maybe they don't. From our aspect, we wouldn't do anything. We see you on the next overdose.
Sure.
Or with the coalition, the nonprofit, we're trying to provide information, but not directly to the person who's addicted to drugs.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're implementing a program which is starting next month, and we'll be going out anytime that there's an overdose. Within 72 hours, we're going to have this team. It's a police officer, a nurse, and a peer recovery coach, and we're going to go and make contact with that person. And we're going to try to get them into rehabilitation immediately and show them, like, look, they had that close of an encounter of dying, right?
Yep.
So that's what we're hoping, that what's been affecting the other states is that these people are scared, right? They almost died. Their families realize it. I think it's the best chance of the best time to get them into rehabilitation.
Because they don't have time to think.
So we're gonna be implementing that, and we're a pilot program at Sterling Heights and Warren.
Sure.
So we're working with FAN. We're the only 2 departments in the state of Michigan that are doing this.
Okay.
If it's successful, which I'm sure it's
They'll all
gonna
catch on.
be, it's gonna blow up.
Okay.
So I'm
Especially
proud.
Chief, especially with Dwyer over there.
Yeah, Dwyer and
Dwyer's
my
the man.
and I'll be honest with you, it's my chief that's pushing this, Chief
Nice.
Wojciechowski.
Nice.
He is very much proactive and progressive in new programming, okay, and implementing new things outside the box of the police department to help our community. We're huge. I'll tell you, this is a big part of my chief. We are huge in participating and working with the Chaldean Community Foundation.
Sure.
Outstanding,
Yep.
right? We want to get in your community
Sure.
every which way possible.
But we also
So-
need us to reciprocate, to be
Yes.
active,
Absolutely,
to get in. It's
absolutely.
not just like Lieutenant Mario and Rayeda went and put an event together and 6 people show up. It's the whole problem again.
Literally
It's back
6
like you
people.
said.
Sure.
It's the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about it, right? Couple things I've been paying attention to. One, the Detroit News had written an article. There's a new system that's tracking opiate use through the country that they're doing. It started out in New York right now. It's basically saying, like, okay, so if you overdose or if you're going in through these prescriptions and multiple uses, it's tracking to know the behavior. Almost a way of an algorithm that can predict if it's possible this person's it's gonna happen again to them by their patterns, by things that they're going through. So they're implementing certain things that could try to catch this ahead, because one thing I've learned is, listen, have I faced it? Slightly. I mean, I lost my arm, so I went through, opiate use for about 45 days of my life, and thank God I was able to wean off it. But what I did understand and learn is we make it look so good when we do these things, but technically we're a ticking time bomb inside. It's what it is. And somebody has to somewhat identify that you're going through this. But by these events that you're doing, stuff that you guys are doing, stuff that these women are doing, and by you being out there, it's to help us identify to get to that. That's what I want to talk about. To get to, before they get to your situation, before you're getting that overdose call, you 2 women, along with Rayeda, if you guys can give us some of the signs, the ramp up, how is it getting to the community? How is the stuff coming in from Mexico? Is any of the synthetic being produced over here in the United States? How is it infiltrating? Because let's be real here, okay? There isn't a black person sitting here on this panel, okay? It's infiltrated that community for a long time. It's nothing new to them. It's nothing new to the African American community in what we call the hood, okay, or their community. But it's affecting suburbs now. So all of a sudden now it's a big widespread deal because it's affecting us, but it's been there. So how has it started to make its way in, and what are the signs that show that it's happening in your own home? So if any of you want to touch on that.
I think that parents and like friends, family, I think that they see a change in people, but we don't want to admit it. And I think, and I'm sure it's not just our community, but I think that the true addiction is that everybody just wants to not feel. So if something makes you feel good, we're going to go with it. It doesn't matter what it is. And I think that a lot of parents don't want to admit that they see a change in their child, that they see that they're getting into trouble, or they're coming home late, or they're lazy, or you know, they don't have the same drive for life as they used to, or, you know, they're acting irrational or angry or whatever it might be.
Sure.
And a lot of people are just they don't want to admit it, because if they admit it, then they have to do something about it.
So we used to have counseling in school,
Mm-hmm.
which would help a lot of these students with these situations. How does the schools identify it? Because sometimes the parents are working and so busy, they're limited to what they see their children for
School
that time.
counselors can only do so much too.
Sure.
You know, they have a whole school. In your home, you have a child or 2 or 3, even 5, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
Like, we have to be the ones that identify this stuff, and we have to do something about it. You know, I think that it starts at home, because the school can only identify so much. And
Sure.
even when they do identify it, they're gonna come to you as a parent anyway.
Sure.
So, you know, they can't slap something out of your hand. You know,
Understood, yep.
schools are very limited now, especially with like everyone just being so hyper aware of everything that teachers or schools do, or anybody, you know, touches your child, looks at them the wrong way, and, you know, they're on the news.
Sister Ruth, Sister
You
Ruth used
know?
to hit us.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I
So,
used to get the kefkid when I did kefkid. It's just that I know just law enforcement. You'd get a call today that kefkid was used.
Oh, Our Lady of Refuge, they didn't care.
Oh, trust
Yeah.
me. I had it done in first grade. She
That
swatted with
doesn't-
the ruler on my hand, but the kefkid is it's a metal spoon, a big one.
Yeah.
And when we got home, we were out of control. We were getting whacked on the tush for that. You know what I'm saying?
but
So
that's
it's
also
like,
not happening that much
Yeah,
anymore.
no,
either.
well, not say it was a
People are
good
not-
thing. Let's
people
listen.
are not
No,
disciplining their children as much as
Sure.
we
Because they're just
probably
so
were.
scared of, you
Yeah.
know, they.
Sure.
I would
sure.
say too, another thing with the schools is a lot of time before it like gets on anyone's radar is kind of at the point where it's gotten out of control. Maybe, you know, really realistically, we don't see kids using opioids and heroin at high school age. Statistically, like we don't see that reporting a lot. But marijuana usage and maybe
Cigarettes,
like other things
alcohol,
like vaping.
Vicodins,
Vaping.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yep.
E.
So
Well,
a lot
quick
of times
question,
with
real quick,
yeah.
just on that, and then go into it. But
Yeah.
usually I get my wisdom teeth pulled, or I usually get braces and stuff done in high school, or or right at the beginning of it. And usually what comes after that, because I remember from my experience was, we're gonna give them 4 Vicodins for only the prescription right now, and then after that, if you want to get them the Tylenol and all that stuff. So it's surprising not to hear as much happening in high school. You
Well,
know what I
because
mean?
parents are usually monitoring that. They're giving you that medication.
Yeah.
You're getting your wisdom teeth pulled. You don't just have the bottle in your room.
Okay.
And one thing that I think about a lot when I started doing this work is the availability of opioids when I was in high school was so much more than it is now, at least inside homes, because there's better prescribing practices.
Right.
Dentists aren't giving 30-day prescriptions anymore. Like organizations like CARE and Families Against Narcotics really advocated on, okay, we have to do better. So that's why like we've seen this transition to heroin with people that were long-term opioid users.
Sure.
Just to kind of touch back on the school stuff, one of the things that I do see a lot in our community, especially with young kids, is, like I said, the problem before we address it, it gets like so bad to the point where kids are not doing good in school. They have to go to alternative school. They change their
How
friends.
young, what ages are these you're talking about?
I
Like,
honestly
what ages should
Those
we
kids-
be looking
those
between
at?
like 15 to 17, I think those are like
We
really
need a new program.
That window.
Yeah.
Because these rehabs will be the worst thing for them. They'll walk in and walk out way worse.
Yeah.
I did it. So we
My
need
son
new
has walked
programs.
out.
We need new
My
programs.
son has walked out a few times.
I know,
a couple times.
like me.
I mean,
And,
Kind of,
and you
do
meet
you-
some,
do
and
you-
you
do
meet
you see-
somebody else.
Do you see high school
Then
students
that's when you
and
did heroin.
Do you see high school students that you get calls on from the schools? Do you get any of this from the parents? And if you do, like, what's your reaction? Because obviously they're in that molding stage. You know what I'm saying? They're pre-18, so everything
Okay.
is still sensitive at that.
Gotta be.
Yeah, I mean, we see drug use, and it's nothing new, right? It's been going on for a long time.
Yes,
Kids
sir.
in high school, they're experimenting with different types of drugs. Yeah, absolutely, we deal with it all the time. I think the thing is, it's not getting to them in high school. It's getting to them when they're in elementary school,
Yeah.
and grinding that message into them. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. And that's another thing that we do with the police department. We do this. It's a newer program. It's called Smart Moves, and CARE is a big part of that. And it teaches, it's 5th, 6th grade of kids before going to middle school, and it's hitting on all sorts of different issues: social media, bullying, drugs, vaping, all these things that kids are dealing with now that maybe so much we didn't deal with when we were in elementary
Right.
school, going to middle school. They had DARE, but DARE's old
No.
school. It doesn't
Yeah.
work as good.
People
No.
wear it.
Something's better than nothing,
Oxymorons.
but we are trying to do different things now, right? Times change.
I
So
agree
it's
with
getting
that.
to the kids when they're a lot younger and getting that message sunk in their head that this is bad. You don't want to go down this reason. You don't want to go on this road for these reasons.
Sure.
And implementing that at that age, hitting them at high school is too late. The message has to be consistent all the way
Sure.
through.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you got to
So-
spend time. That's where I go with the PTA too, right? Like be involved with your kids all the time. Be at the PTA, be at their basketball games, play with them, do as much as you can. And if they get to that, here's my opinion: if they get to heroin as an opiate or like 100 milligrams or more of hydrocodone, oxycodone a day,
Yep.
they're gone. They have to go somewhere else.
Sure.
The chances, you know what the chances are? It's like 0.1% survival. They're not going to survive with assistance through a doctor and still come home. It's not going to work.
Sure.
If they're that age, boot camp. It has to be some type of extreme consequence. And trust me, humans can survive it.
Well, Lieutenant Mario made a very strong point. Funding is scarce. It's not as readily as it used to be. Nancy Reagan was huge in that back in the day. She's what pushed the agenda of drugs are bad, say no to drugs. She was heavy into that. Then follow this is your brain on drugs. They used to crack the egg on a frying pan to show all that. Or
Yeah.
you saw the guy and his buddy smoking pot. I used to watch cartoons and see this. That's what I'm saying to you. The messages aren't conveyed like they were back then. I'd be watching cartoons and the two buddies would be smoking pot. You know, now it's so socially accepted, but back then it was still the same message as to say, you smoke it. The guy was probably in his like 40s, 50s, and his mom's calling from the kitchen. He starts waving and tells his buddy, open the window. Mom's calling, you know, and it was the message that like it doesn't lead to something good, right? So we don't have those sources as much. We don't have the sources for mental health hospitals and mental health cases as much too, which drug addiction can lead from a lot of mental cases. You know, you come home, you're from a depressed situation, you've lost a mom, you've lost a dad, anything possible, bullied, right? So what's your situation? You start turning to this, you're resorting. Remember, it's not just, oh, I picked up heroin and shot the needle. You're at the grocery store, you're buying a can of Whippets or a can of like, you know, the whipped cream, and you're doing that and getting high off that. So does that mean, oh, he's clean because he was just having fun for 30 seconds? Hell no. You're doing something that's altering your brain. You're doing something that could lead to the next thing. Because at the end of the day, we'll talk about heroin, but to say, again, I haven't used it ever, but I've used pain pills which can say are comparable to it.
Similar.
Your body searches for that first high over and over, and it's stuck looking to crave for that every time. It's like, I felt so good, holy cow. It's like, man, I'm not feeling pain for about, an hour. And it's like, but then when you take your second and third, it's not the same. By the time 45 days later, when I was using it after losing my arm, I had to go do shots of Hennessy and drink in order for this to become effective. They had me on Vicodins, Percocets, Tylenol 3s, Tylenol 4s, morphine. 45 days, I looked down and I said, shit, you're nasty looking and smell like hell. Get off it. You don't want to do this. So I got myself off of it, but again, people aren't so lucky. Not everybody, as you guys see in your situation, is going to walk away from it. Support is a big thing. It's not coming from financial money going towards spearheading these campaigns. You said it. You guys are doing this either one out of the kindness of your heart and the jobs that you guys do, because you see this. You don't want to keep going to these phone calls, keep going to these overdoses and stuff. How do we get that back again? How do we get that support from government support for this? Is there stuff that we can do, or do look at support from us as a community and say, we're here to do these events to raise money. So if whatever money I raise, it's going to Sterling Heights Police Department because they're doing a hell of a job and we're giving them resources to continue doing. Where does this funds come from? You own your own office. You work for an organization. So what do you guys do? How do you keep it funding? How do you keep it going? Because it's needed, right? So if any of you can touch on that, if any of you have any insight, I mean.
Well, I can tell you for the police department, we do get funding federally and stuff like that, but politicians are behind it also. There has to be funding that comes from the state and federal level that helps support these programs, that helps pay for officers and different, like I said,
Sure.
different programs in the community. Also, the people in your community can also donate. Look, there's a lot of ways you can help out with this problem.
Yep.
You can donate to organizations, Sterling Heights Drug Free Coalition, other nonprofit organizations, CARE, FAN. They need funding.
Yes.
That funding can come from anywhere.
Yes.
Okay. You want to help, you can fund. If you can't be there in person because of your family or your job, responsibilities, you can. There's other ways to help out with this problem, right?
Sure.
We can all contribute some way, some form or fashion.
Yep.
So that's what I would say.
What do you see from the citizens? What do you expect from us as citizens to give? What kind of help can we constantly give? I know the phone calls, you said we can call in, and if we find somebody who's doing wrong in our backyard, pick up the phone and let you guys know. But how can we come, not just, you said because I just want to say this for the record. It's not just the Chaldean community.
Right.
A lot of the Chaldeans are very close to the Illich family, because of doing business in Detroit. The daughter just put out a program because they lost their son. So it doesn't matter if you're sitting in multi-million-dollar mansions and money and all that there, or if you're broke from the slums and have nothing. It's not. Listen, it affects everybody. There's no
It's not
prejudice when it
selective.
comes to this.
Yeah, it's
So
not selective.
again,
You can volunteer your
Exempt
time.
from it.
You can volunteer your time with different events that happen.
Sure.
You can donate money. I mean, there's other ways of trying to go after this thing. And would you agree, Dunya?
Yeah, I think another thing too is there is a bit of a myth that you can't get into treatment without money. There's funds for treatment.
Salvation Army,
Yeah,
all that
there's so many different avenues that people can take. If you're uninsured, if you're underinsured, if you have private insurance, there's options out there.
What are some of those options?
So,
just
like,
the
for
viewers?
example, Mario talked about Hope Not Handcuffs, and pretty much the same avenue is if you are insured by, like, state-funded insurance or Medicaid, Medicare, uninsured, you can call the access line through
Sure.
any of your, like, through Macomb County, through Wayne, through Oakland County, and they can get you connected to services for treatment.
okay.
And most of those there's no cost. Yeah, they're funded.
Grants and things like that.
And so that I think there's a little bit of a myth, and sometimes I've also like heard within the community that people have been told like, oh, if you don't have like $10,000, $20,000, whatever, people probably pay way more than that to send people to treatment. I don't even
Yep.
know.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I
But,
remember my parents
way
paying a
more.
lot.
You know that their kids aren't going to get help.
Sure.
That's not true.
And it's a myth.
So how?
So before we lose that, do you have a few resources that you could share with the viewers?
In regards to people getting help,
Yeah.
well, we work a lot, like I said, with nonprofits like CARE and Families Against Narcotics and Hope Not Handcuffs. These are the nonprofits that can provide
Yes.
this treatment without any insurance and minimal cost. So we work very closely with these nonprofits.
Sure. And how do they find them is the question. So do I first approach, Lieutenant Mario's, the police department first? Do I walk in there? Or are you setting up community events and stuff for people to say, we've got this, and this going on? Like, what's the approach to finding you guys?
I think right now, especially like our churches have a lot of resources.
Sure.
Like people in our community, like there are so many more therapists, way more people that are, involved in all of this that really you shouldn't be able to turn a corner without
Sure.
having that
So
opportunity.
you're saying if we go to our church, they should have some
Yeah,
information
I mean,
there
I
for us?
personally and myself and Dunya have given resources to, we had a little meeting with.
Who do we work with? Who do you work with in the church so we can present them so people know? Is there a woman or a man that they deal with? Do they call up St. Thomas? Or when you say church, because we have so many
You can call
now.
any of the priests. The priests have resources. I mean, I personally have sent them a list of all Chaldean therapists.
Okay.
I've given them lists of rehab centers.
Yep. And I'm glad what you just said.
Yeah.
So you're a Chaldean woman, so people can feel comfortable to either visit you.
Yes.
Dunya's Chaldean, but also Dunya works with facilities that are non-Chaldean. So if
And
they
we have
feel like
non-Chaldean therapists in my
Yeah.
office as
That's
well.
what yep.
But also people have to understand that, like, put your pride aside.
Sure.
Your gossip, we can call it, or your life or whatever, is not worth my license, not worth my private
Well,
practice.
go beyond that.
It
let
doesn't matter.
let there be shame, and I'd rather be shameful temporary than to have my family member in a pine box that's 6 feet in the ground is no longer temporary.
Absolutely.
By the way, we're all Americans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in
Yes,
reality,
right.
like, there is no shame involved because I can't come and tell you who I've seen today.
Sure.
I've had situations where my own
But I'm
mother.
feeling shameful to come to
Yeah.
you and say I'm ready to open. It's okay for me to be shameful for the moment
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I would rather live
Own
and
it.
have a great quality of life knowing that I saved so and so or that my own butt was saved from
And
this
we've even
problem.
even
Because-
had a lot more people, like parents of people who have an addiction who will come to therapy just to get some skills, some
understand.
understanding,
They have
some
They have
resources.
Al-Anon out there.
Whatever it
Kudos
may
to those
be,
parents.
like if they can't get their child to come in, they are coming in. Like you need to do whatever it takes, and you were talking about the funding and stuff. Yes, you can get a lot of this help for little or no cost, but at the same time, we're spending money on the dumbest things ever.
Yeah.
But we're not willing to put that money into
For sure.
the real things.
You're
Yep.
talking about us as a community.
Yeah,
We spend money on
absolutely.
it.
What's unreal though is the program I went to doesn't cost anything.
Mhm.
Like, how come that's not here? What I understood is that our government, if we don't label it as a disease, we cannot have those facilities here.
I think it's more of a crisis right now.
So we need something
Not
like
just a
that.
disease,
We need
it-
something like that.
it's
Why
an
not?
epidemic.
What's wrong with that? It's an
But
epidemic
here's the
for sure.
problem with that. Even if we had it here, because it's not there.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
It's not gonna
all the way
do-
up north in a compound.
So
Yeah.
You know, it's okay.
To touch on what she said,
Yeah.
I commend that statement for this reason from personal experience. Okay, so a family member was lost. Like again, a week ago, we lost him in our community. He was addicted for about a good 10 years. Parents did what they did. You know, some of them are lucky. You say, wow, because you're right, because you think, oh, I'm supposed to just do this hot dose and I just got started and I'm supposed to die 6 months after doing this. No, this shit can really go on that long. So everybody's getting burned out right now. Every family member, every friend. So our friend, after the parents pulled out, our friend spent the money, sent him to Florida to go recover, did things, helped out, paid, and all that. As much as he tried to help, the guy got out. The buddy bought a moped for him, and literally within hours, Dade County already called and said, listen, the moped's registered under your name. He just got picked up for buying crack cocaine from Dade County. We've got to get him back in. And it's like, he's back in there,
You
right?
gotta take the hard road.
Well,
Sound like the easy road.
And he made that point to me when I said, but my buddy spent about $50,000 on this guy.
Of course, the easy road. Let's go to this spa in Arizona.
But so he says, but he's enabling him. So I didn't
Yeah.
understand that. So when I called up my friend, I said, did you know you were enabling him by doing so? And I said, I just understood why from somebody's perspective. And he said, yeah, you know how I learned that? When the last case was, this is the situation, he's going back to jail or whatever it is, it was, I can't get off of this. I love the hookers and I love heroin, I love the high. I'm telling you straight up, I'm not getting off of it, okay?
Somebody that doesn't want change.
He didn't want change, you know, and gets out of jail, and then a little after he gets out of jail, he took a hot dose. To what you're saying, it was not fentanyl from the counter, it was something laced with fentanyl.
Can
'Cause-
someone explain what a hot dose is
Yes.
to our viewers?
Hot.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys do.
No, go ahead.
Hot dose is like, you know, heroin back then didn't have this much fentanyl, but now fentanyl, this really synthetic fentanyl, they're putting it in the heroin, so when people shoot up, it's just killing them right away. Because heroin really, you can overdose from it, but it doesn't like instantly kill you the way that fentanyl will. And like right now,
And a
what
lot
I'm hearing,
more
it's like
things are
90% of
being
it.
mixed with
A
fentanyl,
lot
Yeah.
more,
not just
not
heroin.
just
Sure.
heroin is.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
just
the
everything.
compounding.
Just to tell people out there,
why
it's
is-
not
why is
just
Even
heroin.
fake
so
Xanax
dangerous?
bars are having fentanyl in it.
Everything.
Yep.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
So
I mean,
what it is just so the viewers know is, it's and I'll just throw this. I'll use me as an example. I'm at home. I've picked up these powders and stuff, and I'm all of a sudden a freaking pharmacist. So I'm taking them, putting them in, compounding the pills, putting it in, compounding the pills. I'm doing this with my own leisure, knowing like, do I really know how much fentanyl did I put in this dose, or do I really know how much is this? And it's not, if I'm not mistaken, it's not just taking that, it's breaking and crushing that pill down, and when you snort it, or when you even ingest it, it's got it in there, and it's a wrap from that.
That's right. So why is the fentanyl so dangerous? Why
The
is it?
synthetic part, so.
So what I say is the fentanyl is hundreds of times stronger than heroin itself. So what they do is these drug dealers are not dumb, right? They want you to keep coming back.
Yep.
They want you to be.
yeah, they sliced a little bit of it.
So your high is going to be that much more when they put the fentanyl in it. Problem is that people are getting the heroin, thinking they're getting the heroin, they're getting the fentanyl also.
Stop,
So then they
stop,
hit
stop.
themselves with it. Immediately they overdose because they think they're getting the amount of heroin they did before,
something, yeah.
or they're getting the fentanyl, however which way it might be.
Yeah.
Shoot it, snort it, eat it. They all sorts of ways that they take it, and then they end up overdosing on it, not realizing what they're getting. So, you know, the drug dealers want you to keep coming back. You take the same heroin, right? It's not having the same effect.
Everything's
Yeah,
stomped
you're
on.
craving
There's
for
nothing
more.
pure.
You're searching
Craving for more. You want even a better
Higher.
high,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
So that's why.
And a lot of
and
people
your
are
job-
getting clean and they're in recovery, and then they're going out for that one high, not
Yep.
realizing that they are not gonna take what they did
Their tolerance
at their
is done.
worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what's also happening
And
too, is that one high could be costing them
Oh, yeah.
their lives.
Now,
The last 6 months, I didn't get high.
Mhm.
Let's talk about
Body goes into shock.
the
Just did it.
I had to do it.
And did
your
you
body
I had to do
craves
it
it.
to
Your
get up.
receptor starts
I couldn't
looking
move.
for it. That's the thing.
I
Is
couldn't
your
move.
body
My
has
stomach, I'll
receptors
throw
which
up.
start craving for
I
this.
couldn't move.
From their standpoint, their job is 10 times harder now, or 100 times harder, because that stuff can be floating in the room, or they're grabbing it out of somebody's pocket. It's on his fingers now.
It's deadly.
His situation now is increased in possibly overdosing, because you know, before they used to worry about, do you have a needle in your pocket? Now it's like, what's in your pocket generally? You know, that powder can get into it. Even Narcan, if I'm not mistaken, sometimes it's not even enough to be able to recover off that OD quick enough because the amount in there. So explain to people how much grams can be in the room floating just to be able to get an overdose from it.
It could be I mean, we don't even go there.
Sure.
Our officers, we try to take the most safety precautions we
Yep.
can. We will not get in contact with heroin or anything nowadays.
Sure.
Because officers have overdosed
Yeah,
and died
believe that?
because of it, going to
Jesus
scenes.
Christ.
So
It's insane.
we do the best we can to be as safe as we can. And you know, unfortunately, it's part of the risk of the
Yeah,
profession.
your job.
I have been stuck with a drug user's needle before. It is not enjoyable, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
All right. The stress that it brings upon you and your family
Wow.
of somebody who has hepatitis C,
It's it.
you know, from using heroin. That's what it
Yep.
was.
Yep.
I'll tell you, it's not fun. You know, what you have to do as an officer for treatment after that is very stressful on yourself and your
Sure.
family. But again, risk of the job.
Yep.
We do everything we can to you know, take the safety precautions.
You were talking about Narcan. I think that's something that our community definitely needs
To
to
be
learn
made aware
about.
of. Yes.
I think we need it in our homes, in our.
What is it? Explain what it is first.
I mean, you guys can probably explain it a little bit better, but I know you do the training and
Yeah.
stuff, so go ahead.
So basically, what it is it is a injection, either to like a nasal injection. So
Can
like,
you just repeat what we're talking about?
so we're talking about Narcan,
Narcan.
and it is a drug that is used to not completely. It doesn't reverse an overdose, but it pulls someone out of an overdose with enough time so that we can get them to a hospital. So they literally are coding,
Yep.
dying,
Yep.
and they come back to life.
And it's a
Um,
very scary
And then
scene.
they
Yeah,
need
Brandon.
fluids right away.
They did that for
basically.
Brandon
Really?
in our home, yeah.
How many times did he overdose? Just curious.
That was his first time.
Okay. Okay.
First and
Okay.
first time.
Yep. Yep.
And
I'm
that's how
scared.
they brought him back. Was that Narcan?
So it can be injected through the nose like a Flonase, or there's also like an intravenous
Like a
way.
epi.
Yeah,
Yep.
EpiPen.
Yeah. So I mean, was there like back in the days you just hit the heart? Is it the same? Like?
No, it's not.
That's
No, it's
kinda
it
like
almost
an
looks like an
Afrin, I think you're
Afrin. It
talking-
almost looks like an Afrin thing.
Yep.
The Narcan. You
Okay.
can get it like that, like
Okay.
Afrin,
A
like
little
you know.
square almost.
It's a
or-
nasal spray.
Yeah,
Okay,
nasal
so just
spray.
if you get in your
Yeah.
bloodstream quickly, so that it just shocks into. Is
It
it the
knocks
heart?
the opioids off the receptors, so that way you can be pulled out of the overdose, start breathing again, your respiratory system starts.
Get the ambulance coming
then
and
get the
get 'em
So
on-
that's
get
what
'em on-
happens when
get
an
'em on
overdose happens, is that your receptors are starting to go haywire and starting to block things, stop things.
Actually, like shutting down,
Brain cells,
basically.
Yeah,
Shutting down.
that's what they. Yeah.
Wow.
So what
You'll see
opioids
people
do is
foam,
they like slow everything down, so
Sure.
your breaths start to get slower and slower and slower until eventually you're not breathing anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you know what's crazy about what you just said? People think that taking like opiates and smoking cannabis is okay, even if people who are actually.
I got a good story for that.
Well, they think like, okay, well, I'm recovering from a broken arm or whatever it is, surgery, so I'm taking these, but I'm also a cannabis smoker. What some people don't know is what the two do to each other. You have your heart rate and your breathing starts competing for one another. And when the competition starts happening, that's when you slip into your coma or you go out like that because your heart's weak and it can't handle it. So everyone thinks, oh, because it's just this, you're doing this, and that's given to me over the counter that I can mix the two. What people don't get
People are
is
mixing a lot.
you have the mixture is also a problem of what goes on today. To be doing this to that, and again, it's not just to say opiates. You got alcohol is a big problem too in our community because drinking is not a great thing too. You can drink heavily, and then all of a sudden, if you stop cold turkey, you die. Some people don't know
that's
that.
the one thing that can kill you.
Well, Amy
now-
Winehouse is a
Right.
perfect example. She was a great star. She drank every day. Doctor said, "Don't stop drinking. You can't go cold turkey." But that also is in regards to doing things like Xanax. So that's why I want to talk about, Narcan's one thing, but also the effects of the misuse of mixing drugs together is heavy too. Why?
Mhm.
Gives you a high, you're feeling good, so.
I don't want to get off of
Yeah.
Narcan
Yeah,
yet,
right.
but what I want to tell you about is this. I've been on many of overdoses, and I'm
Yes.
telling you, it's a horrible scene. It's a horrible scene for the family. If you have somebody that's addicted to some kind of narcotics and there's a chance they're going to overdose, you do not want them to go through this. It's traumatic on them, it's traumatic on the family.
Sure.
I've literally seen people where if it wasn't for the use of Narcan, they were dead. They were dead on the scene. And since we were doing, like I said, the police department, fire departments, we're doing everything we can to be proactive, and nonprofit organizations. we as a police department, every officer carries a kit, has Narcan in it. Many of our officers, they go on, we get there before the fire department a lot of times, we give them the Narcan, it helps to revive them and so they survive. But a big part of it also is now we're pushing the community. Anybody can be trained in Narcan and get Narcan.
How do we obtain it?
So
Start-
there's
well, the
families
same-
doing a bunch right now at Beaumont.
Yeah, we do, there's trainings, Narcan trainings. They're through the nonprofits who care, Sterling Drug Free Coalition, through FAN. The hospitals will do
That
it.
we have.
Yep, and we will give these, it's free. You come out,
Sure.
we teach you how to do it, you get your own kit, you take it with you.
So if anyone wants Narcan,
Yes.
I will give you my contact information. They can contact me or just contact CARE directly.
Sure.
We train families on how to use it. It's quick, it's easy, and it's free.
Yep.
Anytime we train someone, they can get Narcan for free. And then following that, if they use their Narcan, we'll give them more Narcan.
Sure,
So
sure.
feel free.
And
It's
and
concerning though that still seems that it could be an enabling thing over and over.
But here's the thing though with that,
That's a
and I hear that
concern.
all the time. I hear it from actually officers say the same thing. We keep giving Narcan to keep overdosing. Here's a fact though. If you don't give them that opportunity to be survive
They're done.
to recover,
it's over.
right?
They're gone anyway.
They're gone. There's no
So
no
you don't
answer.
even know if the
But you're
chances
giving
work
them
to right,
the
you know?
opportunity to get
Recovery.
recovery, right? To
Yes.
get into recovery and get help,
yes.
right? So there's always a chance.
I seen
So
this-
having that is a good thing.
I seen this thing online about Narcan that said the only thing that Narcan enables is breathing. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
And that's wrong because somebody said to me, because I told them that somebody passed away from an addiction of narcotics, that they want to come to. Yeah, people always want to shit on you. No offense, but it's just because they want to stigmatize it as it's dirty. So is everything else. So is your addiction to sex, which can lead to diseases and other problems too. So could your gambling. So could other things. You know what I'm saying?
So it's about what is accepted in society.
Right.
Yeah.
In your culture, in your guys' culture,
Yeah.
it's a shame, right?
Yeah,
and it's looked down upon.
Yes.
It's like any other addiction. You said it, gambling, all these other things. That's accepted amongst your people. So you guys are like, well, he has that problem. We can get him help.
Yeah.
Why not be this the same way?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll
So-
tell you,
so true.
a lot
That's
of times I'll tell you when we go out and deal with families are just like, well, we don't want to talk about it, or we want to keep it all everything hush hush. It's like,
Yeah. And it's wrong.
But we're also entering a new phase.
Yeah.
I mean, you're here right now.
Right,
And
that-
that in itself is.
Well, that's
I think
what we
the
want to
biggest
do.
step that we can take in the right direction.
That was the point of this was you have 5 different angles here. You got 2 co-hosts that can be able to talk about it. I mean, he's got kids, so he's going to have to learn and see and deal with as he's raising his kids now. You know, I don't have kids. I got nieces and nephews. The shit ton of worries that goes through my head day in, day out. You know, I can imagine what I would do if it was my own. You know what I'm saying? Like I know what kind of thought I put into them. We've had your guys' perspective on things. We've had person who's gone through it used it, the help. Now we want to talk about when the help is there and when the help can't help. Where does it get to? You know, Rayeda, you've got to hear 4 people. You've dealt with the 3. You know, I don't. You've dealt with Stephanie before, but I'm pretty sure the 3 of you have been somewhere somehow a part of Rayeda's life. Rayeda, you know, you're a great friend and family to me. Okay, you've always been,
Brother.
well, yeah, like a sister to me. So, you know, when things happened, we were there to support it. At first, 4 years ago, I believe it was, 3 or 4 years ago, Brandon passed, or
No, 2.5
two.
years.
I'm sorry, getting back, 2.5 years. We first talked about it. We had George, your brother, come on and talk about it to the community. It was one of the biggest hits we had on doing the social media
Yeah,
live
I
that day.
remember.
When Omar, which you've been on the show, it was to bring it to light. We had over 10,000 views. The scary part about it is the follow-up. Does that mean that many people as 10,000 viewers did what they did to understand and now fix the problem? Probably not. He sees it day in, day out. These 2 see it day in, day out. We're still part of the problem. Help the viewers know some of your experiences that you had, how you first found out, and when you first found out, what was your first step? Like, were you able to absorb it and say, shit, I got to help my son, or am I going to keep it quiet? Or, you know, you have a great husband who supports you too. You have your daughters too that were part of this. So let's break it down a little bit.
In the beginning, as my husband's a little, old school,
Sure.
he couldn't accept it.
I am too, in our own way.
Everybody-
My dad was the same way.
Yep.
Yeah, he's like, oh, he can stop, he
No.
can do it,
I think
it's overnight.
old school or not, as a
Oh,
parent.
my
Yeah,
dad
as a
was
parent,
crying to
yeah.
my mom.
Yes.
But as,
saying,
a
I'll
stigma,
bring
and,
him home
it's
tomorrow.
hard, He could stop right away, you could just wake up and stop, and,
Yeah, no, I get it.
and my experience,
Sure.
how I found out, everybody's different, every addict,
Yep.
just like probably, your parents found out, keeping away from family, dozing off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he.
Like, did you
You
accept
start
that?
to get reckless.
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
start to see
his
you see
anger,
spoons. You see
his
yes,
attitude.
yes.
You know,
Yep.
like I would say something to him, he would snap at us.
Sure.
His distance from us, and it was just, you know, me and my husband were talking. I'm like, you know, something's off about him. Something.
Right.
You know, we would say, no, he's stressed out. You know, his business. You know, whatever. So I just kept on getting worse, and I kept on, you know, elevating.
Yep.
You
And
know,
to
back
us,
in-
it's
I know
common.
a lot of people know him, but how old was he at the time?
23.
23.
23.
Okay.
So it doesn't, and I tell people this, it doesn't have to start, and me and Dunya had multiple conversations. You know, it doesn't have to start in high school. It doesn't have
Yep.
to start in middle school. You have to always, your child is always going to be your child, whether
Sure.
he's 23,
Absolutely.
26, you know, whatever.
And she knew him in high school.
She did.
correct?
I
She
was gonna
went-
say, like, Brandon was a year older than me, but just like everyone loved Brandon.
Yep.
He got along with everyone. Like, it didn't matter who it was. He was
Listen,
honestly like the coolest kid.
No offense on the
Yeah.
Kallabat side, but he was an Abro. The Abros are very charismatic, uppity up fam. Listen, they are. I've been around you guys for 25 years, 26 years of my life with your siblings and everything too. So when I found out, it was a twist to me, because as much as I know your brothers and as much as she's saying, you guys are like your families. You're always
It was awful. So, make a long story short, moving, you know, a little bit forward, it just kept on getting worse, and we knew it was bad, and we would confront him. Oh no, you don't know what you're talking about, Mom. You don't know what you're talking about, blah blah blah. Anyways, I went in his room. We started snooping, found some stuff. They're not mine. They're my friends.
sure.
Blah blah blah. You know how it goes.
Of course.
In denial. His dad would talk to him. You need to stop. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Attitude. Everything got worse. Sleeping habits. Staying up all night.
Sure.
Rackets.
Did
Arguments.
any friends come around to you at this time?
You know,
and anybody acknowledge
They
it?
start separating from different friends and making new
Mhm.
friends.
Sure.
Mhm.
Do you not agree?
Absolutely.
Well, the
of course.
statement
So-
is, you sleep with
Yeah.
dogs, you wake up with fleas, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So his old friends. It's hard to explain. Like his old friends. He makes new friends
Sure.
with. You know.
Yeah, you are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So you surround yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
I called so it just kept on getting worse and sleepless nights. I called a 1-800 number. They helped me. We contacted an interventionist.
Okay. Which does what?
He basically comes and talks to the addict
Mm-hmm.
to take him to a rehab center.
Okay.
So this was all new to me.
Sure.
Because we thought if we talked to him, there's no way he's going to go.
Of course.
If I talk to one of his uncles, cousins, sisters,
Mhm.
it's a stigma. He's going to be ashamed. He's going to be
Sure.
embarrassed. Why did you tell family? Why did you tell this person? Why did you? I'm sure you've been through all this, you know? So I flew out a gentleman that wasn't recovering addict. He was amazing. It was early morning in August. You do the letter thing. I don't know if you're familiar with an
No.
interventionist.
No. If you want to give us a little light.
You write a letter,
You
like
write a
basically
letter.
of what they've done, you know, and everybody speaks, and yeah,
Like
I've had a
the-
few of them.
The person facing the addiction writes the letter.
No.
No.
Or
family.
your family writing the letter to
So
what
you
his
get a
hap-
few people that are close
I
to
got you.
Brandon writes a letter to Brandon why they want
him to recover.
to go to get better.
Sure.
So the gentleman Matt
Mm-hmm.
woke him up. He was sleeping. We all gathered in the living room, and how about this? We never got to the letter. Brandon wanted to get up and go.
Really?
Yeah,
He wasn't for it.
he was in for it. We flew him out to Palm Springs.
Mm-hmm.
He stayed there, and
That was the.
that was the first time
Okay, that you guys sent him to a recovery for therapy, right?
to a rehab
A
center.
rehab center. Okay. And how long was he there for?
30. He did a full 30 days.
Okay.
We didn't go visit him. That's when I spoke. We
Sure.
could go visit him.
Sure.
Yeah.
We could
Not
have flew
enough
out
time.
there. What is
They
it?
gotta be. It has
Yeah.
to be like 6
We
months. a
cut
year.
off.
Yeah.
But we were warned, don't go see him.
Yeah.
If they ask, we don't because,
Yeah.
he would call and be like, "You're not coming to visit me. You don't
Sure.
love me. You don't." This.
Would you have standing today? Would you and Bassam? Would you guys have let it further than 30 days? Do you think 30 was not enough?
It wasn't enough.
Okay.
No.
Not close.
Just
No.
because the reason I'm saying this
It's
to you,
not enough.
you're the voice of the next parent's ears.
It's not enough.
Okay? You're the voice to let the community know that I experienced this as a mother. I went through this. And there is some things that I would probably do better today if I could.
Or just differently.
Or just
It
differently. I'm
just-
sorry, not
I've
better.
done-
Let me
you know
rephrase. I'm
what?
sorry.
I
different.
think I did everything and more for my child. I know that, and God knows that.
Sure.
I did a lot.
Okay. Okay.
I
You think
wish
that
I knew
could-
you. I wish I knew you guys then. I really did.
I did a
Really
lot.
I'm like, what the
You
hell?
know what's
I
big about
did.
that
I
statement?
wish people like.
well, that's huge.
really do.
Because, so,
That's what we're here for.
yes. Because, listen, just because I wasn't an addict, I've gone through some points of depression and stuff like that.
Of
But
course.
I've now, to be
And
able
life
to...
continues still to
And-
be
and-
hard.
But you gotta face that and accept
Yes,
that to say,
yes.
you know what, I was depressed at some point, and you know what, Rami is depressed, and his mom just reached out to me and says, can you just come give him a hand? And it's okay to, because it's okay for me to say, you know what, Rami, I did go through depression, I did go through these problems. So to have somebody like this to say, I did go through this, and I'm here to support you, because there's two sides here, the user and the person dealing with it. Okay.
And they have to know, like, these addicts need support.
Mhm.
You
In what
can't-
way?
In every way. I don't know, as a mother, I just think you need to be there for that child or that brother or that sister, and don't belittle them, and don't, call them names, and don't.
But do you ever feel like you have to
support-
cut them off at a point though? Like, is there a point
You
where
can
you?
still do that
can
lovingly.
Yeah,
How?
exactly. Thank you.
I mean, you can show, like, when he would call or say, you guys don't like, we love you so much that we can't come and visit you.
Yeah,
Well, that's
Like,
why
we
there's
love you so
treatment.
much.
It's
Yeah.
tough without treatment, right?
Absolutely.
So, is there a formula for, I've been on drugs this long. How long is there like going to rehab for this long type of thing? Like,
Every
is it-
person is gonna.
Everyone's
Everyone-
different,
okay.
but I'm telling you, there's no way opiates you could get over it in under 6 months. It's not. Your head won't be normal.
Is it just because
It
of
won't.
Does
besides
your
your
head
head?
all of you feel
your,
the same?
your dopamine receptors
I think
are
it's different.
half
Yeah.
burnt.
Yeah, it is, and wait, and then to piggyback on, it is different. I mean, I could say 30 days was enough, or it depends on the person.
Yeah.
Some people
Sure.
30 days was enough. I mean,
But does that change the behavior of that
You
person?
know what?
Because it's a
it
personality.
it
you need a
depends on
long
the
time.
behavior. I mean, Brandon sometimes was a functional addict. There's
I was
functional
too.
addicts.
Oh,
He was a
absolutely.
functional addict. People don't believe in that. But there was days my husband would be like, he's on something, and I'd be like, no, he's not. And it would be an argument between
Mhm.
me and my husband.
Of
You know, one
course.
of my daughters would be like, I think Brandon's on something, and I'd be like, no, I was always in denial of
Were
it.
you blinded by the
Yeah.
love of your kid? That's why.
Absolutely. Your
Yeah, well-
child is perfect in
Sounds
your
like
eyes.
my parents.
So aren't there are there
Just
are
like
there
it.
stages? So there's the you get on an opioid, and then
The high
there's
is
there's
never
the
enough,
there's the
yeah.
parents, and then there's there's the denial, and then
Denial.
are there stages throughout this process,
Yeah.
recovery? So there's getting hooked, and then going through the process, and then hopefully freeing yourself of it. Is there a pattern or something you guys can share with us to help us paint a picture?
I think it's so different for everybody,
Everybody,
honestly,
it is.
because some people can go to rehab and
Mhm.
they can be on their path of recovery for a really long time.
People that have like
And-
done heroin
and
forever,
addicts,
30
yeah.
days
and let me tell
recovered.
you,
Not maybe not
Not a
30
chance.
days,
Go
but,
to a rehab and they'll tell you the chances
Well-
are 0.3% if you are a heroin addict.
but my
But-
point is
100%.
just the
They'll tell you that.
the path is very different for everybody. It
And
also
30
depends
days
on
outpatient.
when you've started, depending on like where your brain development was at that time, or
Sure.
things like that. There's just so much involved that I don't think that there's like a very specific path. I think that
What is
It's
some
a
of the
behavior though.
But
Isn't
I
it
know
that
a
behavior?
heroin addict that went to a rehab, and he's married now, and he's been
Me too.
in clean
It's very
for.
Well,
different.
3
where did
years.
he go to rehab?
I don't
How
don't
long
know,
did he
but
spend?
It
What
wasn't
What was
long.
the sacrifice?
Lieutenant Martin?
I just want to say
you're an
something
addict.
here. Like, I think we're getting caught up in the time frame.
Yep.
That
Yeah, there is
Yeah.
no time
Yeah.
frame.
One, you're muddying the waters. The fact is that if anybody's willing to go to rehabilitation
Mhm.
for 30 days, 6 months,
It doesn't
3
matter.
years,
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
You gotta
because
want help.
It
it's
doesn't.
it's a step in the right direction of getting off
Exactly.
the addiction, right?
Sure.
So
So however long it was for you, that works for you. That's fantastic, and I'm proud of you for that, man. It's great.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody goes for a 30-day isn't going to get clean.
My
That might be
problem, my
enough to
problem
say-
is just that hey, it's a disease.
I know, but I hate to sell that message to the public
some
that,
survivors.
hey,
Right, that's
listen,
what I'm trying to say, like, it's.
30 days isn't going to be enough.
Yep.
Something's better than
No, yeah, you gotta ask
So
for
did,
help.
and Dunya, we
Ask for
talked
help,
about
want help.
this, when Brandon would tell me, you know what, Mom, I relapsed, I need help, and we would take him the 4-day detox. Harbor Oaks. Okay, Brandon, if that kept him alive 4 more days, then you better believe I'm taking him there.
Sure, that's just like what you were just
Of
saying
course.
right now. If you took their Narcan to give them a chance to breathe and go through the recovery, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want the public to think that
That is not
Exactly,
okay.
that's what I'm
No,
trying
agreed.
to say, yeah.
No,
I don't-
Everything
you're
works
right,
differently
you're
for
right.
people,
The
and
support after though.
sure.
It's like, okay, 30 days, you get out, and then usually everyone's like, oh,
I
they're
think
fine,
the
they look
message
good
is-
for a week.
I think the message we relay here is it doesn't stop at rehab.
Continue.
You
It doesn't-
have
they
to
have-
continue on with programming
Great
after
way.
that.
That's what I was
Yep.
trying to
It's
get
everything
at.
that you do
Yeah.
after rehab.
Okay.
After you detox, after you go through the program.
After you're back
Where
into
you
regular
live,
life.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's
What's your structure
let's
like?
go this.
Counseling.
That's a good point that you guys are all making. Time-wise and everything, it's great. I come to you. What's my first step with you?
Well, I do outpatient therapy, so
I'm saying,
I'm,
so like
I'm
my
that
first
person
step.
that you come to after
Yes.
rehab. I'm that person that you're back into the
That's what I'm
regular
saying. What's the
swing of
forward
things.
progress? What does Stephanie offer to forward progress me as a recovering addict? What do I get out of seeing you? I know I've already gotten to Lieutenant Mario because he gave me the way to go through the rehabilitation. He didn't arrest me. He gave me this alternative. Now he said, go see Dunya, go see Stephanie. That's what you can work
We're
with.
giving
What do
people
I do from
support,
there?
We're giving people resources, but we're also trying to look deeper too. Like my job is to
Underlying
figure out
issues,
the underlying
poss-
issues.
Okay.
You know, we want to get to the root of it so that
Sure.
it doesn't happen again.
Sure.
We want to be able to, process things that maybe you didn't because you chose that drug to mute all of it.
Sure.
We want to bring all of those things up. It's almost like we're preparing you
Super
for
important.
what's that?
Super important for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're preparing you for the event that something does come up and you want to use. No, we want to give you those skills. We want to give you, all that knowledge and the support, with the different resources, or even just as a therapist, me being that support system for some people, or realizing that people around you are actually wanting to support you, but you haven't seen it.
Sure.
But it's an ongoing thing. A lot of people will come to therapy for 3 sessions and
they're-
it didn't work.
Or they're cured, right?
Yeah,
Or they're cured.
Or they're cured.
Yep.
But
Can we-
therapy doesn't work unless you put the work into it.
Sure.
Nothing does,
Can
right?
we speak to the people who have never done drugs and are just in an environment where they're starting to be introduced to drugs? Because people, you have to get started somewhere, right? It may be from a sports injury, it may be from a car accident, could be from anything, but the opioid gets into the system and then you form an addiction, or you're trying to just get high. So can we speak to the people who have not gone down that road and help them understand the damage and the
why
how
not?
much
You'll sacrifice.
drama you're going to bring
Yeah.
to your whole family and
I
everybody?
feel like Rayeda could really tell us about
Yeah.
that and what
Yeah,
she's
Rayeda, you can probably talk about the destruction that it gives a family and what it does to not just his siblings and yourself and your husband, but the entire family, whether it's his uncles, aunts, or whoever it is that's involved. If you can give us a little,
How many times did he go into rehab?
yes, like,
Maybe 4 or 5 times.
okay,
And
what was
every time he did that,
yeah,
what did
what
you
was-
guys
It
go
got
through?
worse, right? Every time?
He didn't get worse. He just always wanted help. He just
That's good
hated
that he wanted
himself. He
Me too.
was
I felt
ashamed
that
of
way too.
himself. He did not want to be this way. As an addict, did you want to be
He
this
wasn't
way?
that person. He was a
Addicts
special
don't want to
person.
be this way.
Sure.
They don't want to be this way. But when he would try to get clean, it's just hard for him.
Is it true to follow to say addictive personality that lies within the family is just a trait that will be passed on from generation to generation?
I
Because
don't
you guys
believe.
don't
I
have
don't
it in your
believe
household.
in that. I don't believe
Well,
in
you don't
that.
have it in your household, so it was new for me to
Yeah.
see. That
So
within you.
it was somebody that introduced it to him,
And he liked it.
and he liked it.
Right,
he
but so
liked
before
it.
that, so he'd never tried it before, but then
No.
he tried it. So how?
It takes one time.
I get that. So
Anything
what's
for
the
a
message?
drug-
Did you try it before rehab or after rehab? Like, did he ever do opiates before and then?
Of course, that's how it started. It started
Then it
with
was heroin
opiates.
after rehab.
It
was the first
started
time.
with opiates.
Lieutenant Mario said you got to start the education
Right,
in
'cause
elementary school in order
I
when
get
they're
it,
young.
so let's talk to those
But
people
also we
now.
I
have
got
to
worse
try
after
to-
rehab each time.
We
Worse
also
and
have
worse
to
and
look at
worse.
like mental health and
Yes.
I get this a lot. I do a lot of talks at like the youth groups and stuff, and like teenagers will come up to me and say, I want to come to therapy, but my parents won't let me.
Mm-hmm.
So like us.
Do you ask
just
them why?
Yeah,
Because of the shame, the
it's a
stigma.
shame,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. I hide people in my office, literally. If I have two Chaldeans that are gonna run into each other in the lobby, I have to put one in another office and put another in another office until one leaves. So the shame is there, and parents, like I tell people, like, if your child wants to go to therapy, if your child wants help, get them help.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
because that's really what it comes down to is, like I said, the addiction is feeling good. So when they're not feeling good is when they're at risk of all of these things.
Yep, you're
You
weak,
know?
and your mind can be weak at that time. And after I put
Very.
my interview out, when I had put that out to let, I masked depression and stuff for over 20 years. It's easy to do that because, like I said, you internal, you're a ticking time bomb. But after that, and it was surprising, and again, this isn't for me to exploit it or whatever. I'm not saying names, but some of your patients reached out to me and said, "Do you go see her?" And I said, "No, I think I should though. I think it's time, you know."
I can't tell anyone if you did anyway.
No, I know, I know. And I don't have a shame to say that I did. That's the difference. You get what I'm saying too? By doing what I did, I opened up. And I think that's the biggest scare that he brought to our attention was our community got to quit that shit. Listen, again, it's either you teach them and stop them, or you let them and enable them, and now they're 6 feet in the ground versus you got to spend Thanksgiving with them,
Absolutely.
right?
And that's why I tell people, like, you have nothing to lose by allowing your child to come to therapy. You have nothing to lose by admitting that you're struggling with something. Absolutely.
What kind of message as a parent can you give the community,
other parents.
like to other parents? It's okay to open because
It's okay to open up. I opened up.
sure,
I didn't hide it. Could have hid it so very well.
sure.
You know,
Here's 2.5 years later now. This is your first exposure, real exposure like this. You've
it's
done.
not easy. It's still hard.
Yep,
Of course.
sure. And we sympathize
Bill,
with you.
you know, it's
Listen, I was told this from my cousin. It's a shitty way of saying it, but it's in essence a way of looking at it. And again, I'm not a parent. He said, we're not supposed to bury our children.
they're supposed
Right?
to bury us.
They're supposed to bury us. And he said, I'm not saying this in a negative way, but I can replace a wife by getting remarried, but I can never replace my children by having another one, right? So that's the message I need people to see why we did this today. It's not just because, oh, we got you guys on, we're going to get ratings. We don't give a shit about ratings on our show. We want messages conveyed.
Parents need to be aware.
Yes.
They need to, no matter what age
And
it
be
is,
okay with it.
and be okay to open up and be okay to come to
me,
oh,
These
to
three
you,
people
to
right
Dunya,
here. Or even get a
to
hold
go-
of Rami and
yes,
say,
to
why
me,
why,
you know,
why
and
not?
but we don't have
I
this
think
when
all
you
young boys need the hard, like I said,
Girls and
hard
boys.
road.
we don't
Girls
have this
girls and
magic
boys.
wand
Hard road.
stick though, you know,
That
to
to cure everything.
that-
It's not going to go away.
No,
you
it's
know,
just a hard road.
to
No,
call
no easy
Dunya,
road.
to call Stephanie and say, my child has a problem, can you come and take him and drag him to a rehab?
And fix it.
And
It's
fix
not going
it.
to be fixed like
Your
this.
child has to want to go. Your brother, your sister, your spouse, whoever it is, they have to want the help.
Mhm.
You
They have to
just
hit
not
rock
be-
bottom
Yeah.
typically to want that help.
Not be in denial, to be open to help, whichever way it comes.
And it's not just death, you guys, that it leads to. I want to talk to Lieutenant Mario about this. It leads to a lot worse things, not than death, but I'm saying just your addiction. Your addiction comes with thieving, breaking and entering, possibly robbing and murdering, just to be able to get it fixed, going into a store to rob, take, get the money at the register. And usually it's
Yeah,
petty
being
crimes.
a victim of any of those too.
Yeah.
It
It's like,
affects people in
Yeah.
all walks of life, and for law enforcement, your millions and millions and millions are spent upon trying to deal with this issue, right?
sure.
Not only people with addiction, but with the crimes that come with it.
Sure.
Breaking into homes, victimizing people that have nothing to do with it, right?
Sure.
And stealing from them or robbing them. This was 2 weekends ago. We had 2 robberies in one night. It was because they were drug addicts.
Sure.
And they were trying to get their fix.
Sure.
And that's exactly what they did. They robbed somebody. They went down and they went to the place that they get the drugs. They got it and they came back.
Yes.
They got arrested.
They found a way to do it though, and
And-
they could use that skill and change that behavior to find a way to become
Sure.
successful.
Well,
Well,
I don't know what's
I don't know if it's success.
Very, very much so.
No,
we
the-
call
the-
it
the
use
thing
your
was-
dope fiend.
the thing is with the addiction is that
How'd you get your gram of heroin a day?
they're going to do whatever it takes to get their fix,
Correct.
and they're going to hurt whoever they have to hurt
Yes.
to get their fix.
Yes.
Including themselves.
Well,
Including
to
themselves.
say what he's saying is, we had a young man, Ronnie. He was my old neighbor, and he broke into our grotto, the Chaldean grotto. And when I'm talking to you about money in there, what's you're talking about candle donations? How much money could really be in there? You know, maybe $100
I
if
don't know
that.
what Chaldean, it could be a
Well,
lot.
and I'm sure we
Still.
emptied him out daily, but
Still.
he broke into it. First time he couldn't get in, he came back in, and I watched people posted the hell out of it on Facebook, right? And this is going to lead to what I want to say because it goes to her son and goes to him, but it got on Facebook, and I watched that video over a couple of times. And I don't know why I did, and I'm like, man, just to see what was this guy doing. I'm trying to look at it, and I said, shit, he's got a mask on. And I looked again, and I said, oh my God, it's Ronnie. It's my neighbor, right? And I said, I knew the problem because the guy had broke his back about a year before this, a year and a half before this. He was on opiates. He was using them to get the recovery process happening. But he broke into that, and I felt it was in my duty, again, to what you said earlier. I wasn't doing something wrong by calling the police department and telling on him.
No.
I was trying to save the kid's life. The kid was a great neighbor. He would help my brother who was blind. He would help us with whatever, but it's like he turned because of this drug. And I called up and I had to call a leader of our community because I couldn't get a hold of the lead detective on it. And he made the call, and the next morning there was 4 cop cars there. They were arresting him. They did what they did. His picture was posted. The hurtful part from me on my side of it to accept it was to let people bash him. He wasn't a loser.
No.
He wasn't a piece of shit. He wasn't all the stuff that they were blasting with him on social media. You guys, I saw it firsthand. He was a great human being that turned bad because of this. He wasn't bad. He himself, what he was using was bad. What it made him do. He got locked up. He went in for a little bit. Well, he came back out, and shortly after he came back out, I pulled up back into our neighborhood, and the place was full of cars. I'm thinking there's a party going on, and my other neighbor says, no, Ronnie died this morning in his sleep. Okay? So I at least tried helping him by getting him to get that help. But again, Lieutenant, from your end of it.
So I think that so you're putting that information out there, and then that this gentleman got arrested because of the information you provided, which is outstanding. Good for you for doing that. That you provided that information to law enforcement. The thing is that getting arrested sometimes isn't so bad because if some people that are hell bent on not getting help and like, no, I don't need it, I don't want it.
Yes.
That might be the first step in making them realize
Yeah.
I need help.
Mhm.
They get arrested, they go to jail.
Agreed.
It's not just people don't go to jail and that's it. We're not law enforcement. We don't just shut the door and like, hey, see you later.
Right.
We want to get people into rehabilitation, get them resources, and that's
Sure.
the time to do it because they're in the mix of having a little clearer mindset.
Mhm.
They're not on the drugs and stuff like that and under the influence. So we try to provide them resources. So somebody going to jail because of information you provide isn't a bad thing. You may be giving them the help and the opportunity to get help,
I
right?
agree with
To
you.
live.
Absolutely.
To live, right, brother? That's the biggest thing. You're trying to get them quality of life for an extended amount of time. Sooner or later, it's either you're going to OD or
And here's the thing with what you're saying, right? You hear about the times more often than not, the people that die, right?
yes.
But what about, I guarantee that there's people that have done what you've done
Yep.
and people have survived and they got
Yes.
in recovery and they got off the drugs.
Yep.
So there are success stories out there.
Yep.
You just hear about the ones in the community where somebody dies.
Died. And I'm glad you brought that as a point because we got to stop being ashamed that if somebody overdosed, you're not going to say he wasn't feeling good or something with his heart, whatever condition came in, so we've had to take him for testing and all that stuff. You're feeding yourself
And
BS.
people know. And people know.
Well, now we do because we're now at listen.
In general,
we're first generation Chaldeans sitting over here, right? Okay, so we were able to experience all these years and grow up with it. Chief story in Holly, he was the officer who put us onto that Hope Not Handcuffs. You know, he made a point. Both of you guys have. You have made a point. It's not just your community; it's everywhere. But when you look at that chief who grew up with the Chaldeans and got to see us evolve, and says, I said to him, we lost about 24 people so far last year from this. 24 doesn't sound like a lot when you got 150,000 people in your community, but it is a lot because there's probably 48 that we didn't know about that went through this and recovered or are going to die soon because nobody wants to talk about it. But he said, I can't believe your people inherited the filth of this country. So he basically was saying to me, you guys are only short-lived here in the United States, and you already now started taking on what we've already experienced and are still experiencing. So again, there's no prejudice to this. It doesn't matter if you're Chaldean.
I want to say something about your guys' culture. You guys have an amazing community.
Thank you.
I'm talking about, telling you what, talking about when you guys rally about behind each other or something going on,
Yep.
you guys rally.
Yes.
Unlike probably a lot of other communities. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I've been in law enforcement for 19 years.
Sure.
You guys have, and especially in Sterling Heights, huge Chaldean based on the west side of our city. Amazing community. If you guys rally behind each other with this,
Yes.
instead of trying to close the doors to it,
Yes.
you guys will win.
Yes.
You guys will beat this, guaranteed.
Yes, I agree, and I thank you for making that statement, and I also thank you for commending our community when it comes to that. That's the gift and the curse that we have. We want to all come together when it's good for this, and this, and
100%.
hurrah fight,
Yeah.
but we gotta stop the whole thought that it's just dirty. You know what I'm saying? That it's just you gotta help them. It's your brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, these are people. Would you rather feel like I did nothing and then I knew about it and then oh my God they're gone? And then you sit there and you drive and you sulk to yourself like, shit, could I have done something? Right? Because that could be an impact on yourself. Like, damn, like I could have, but I didn't.
What's the alternative? What's the alternative?
Keeping quiet.
Keep
right?
quiet, don't say
Don't
anything,
do
don't do
nothing.
anything. What happens? More people die. More people get addicted.
Yep.
Right?
And
More families
people
get
suffer,
affected.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it becomes more accessible.
You know, me and my husband get phone calls, I want to say every 2 weeks,
Sure.
3 weeks. We tell them what to do, but then it gets quiet.
It goes on deaf ears sometimes.
Yeah, and I get so angry, and I'm like, you know, the help is there. Like, I had a mother that called me for a 14-year-old child, and I'm like, you have the ability. You can do something. You're the adult.
Yeah, he's 14.
You can do something. It doesn't. Nobody in your family has to have an
Just, we
addict,
want you.
or we just need people to
Show
educate them
Sure.
And
for our
even if they do,
future.
who cares?
Exactly, and even if they do, who cares? To learn about the Narcan, to learn, you know, if Lieutenant Mario can be there and speak. I'm sure he would, you know, speak
Absolutely.
about it.
Yeah.
You know, just to educate and
We
be
all
there and
take-
support.
We
you
all
know?
take any opportunity to do this stuff.
Sure.
We
you
would
know?
love it, but it's like
But you have
if
to
you
show
guys
up.
can't be there, we can't do anything.
I was doing a talk at a church about mental health, and there was 15 people that showed up.
Well, what's nice about what you guys all committed today and to be able to do this, people can watch this in their privacy,
Yes,
their own home,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
they can learn without having to feel the
Sure.
shame of coming in and seeing others publicly and admitting there's a problem in their home.
But that's
Anthony-
what we're trying to say is like, who cares?
Who
Of
cares?
course,
What-
they
what
should
if-
reach
what if
out-
you-
reach
what if-
out to
what if
one of
somebody
us.
watching has a question they want
Reach
to
out
ask
to
me,
one of
like,
us, please.
Then
You know-
hopefully you'll
Please.
allow
So-
them to reach out to you. And,
Well, I
ask.
have you guys all on email, right? You guys have all been grouped. I don't know if you've been receiving mine or
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure sometimes it goes to spam or whatever. But what we
Junk
do
in.
is we end up having on the bottom of our YouTube all resources of that interview.
absolutely.
So whatever you guys want to send to us for us to be able to put on there, whether it's a business line for you for someone to reach out or your email if they want to
Like
reach out to
direct
you.
cell phone. you
Or
can call.
direct information
It's
from
very
each and every one of you guys. We're gonna post it and put it on there. So like Anthony said, if you're in your convenience of your own home, and you don't feel like telling somebody there, look at the bottom of that YouTube and tell somebody on there.
Right, and we have people so we did reach out to a few people, other people, to have on the panel. One recommended Rami, and there are others that are willing to, that have
Sure.
recovered, that
Yes.
don't have the guts that Ronnie had. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
The
Rami
The
had to
way,
be
the
here.
way, yeah, because
that,
hey,
that are willing
was the way
that are willing to mentor
I'll
anyone.
mentor anyone, absolutely.
And these people
And I
are
have the
saying,
ability
so if
to.
anyone out there is looking
want
for
to
help
help.
or needs help, get a hold of us.
I heard my
We'll
mom,
put you in touch
just
with these
like-
people,
I didn't mean to.
and they're willing to sit you down and counsel you as much as they can.
Yep. Especially somebody like Lieutenant Mario who can give you the law enforcement side to say, don't be scared to come to us. Don't be afraid to tell us when we come to you and they're laid out on the ground and we've just hit them with some Narcan. Let us know what happened, how it happened. And it's okay, again, you're saving a life. And not just your own kids. When you speak on why and how it happened, you're gonna save maybe my children's future, his children's future, any of your kids that are sitting over here. Because now the whole point of it is that he said, we're going to go after the person who sold this. And we're going to figure a way to get to that person so that person doesn't kill the next person. And that person is now behind bars.
Yeah. So if you had your child in the room, say a grown 20-year-old, and somebody came and punched him in the face, would you allow them to punch them in the face? No.
Absolutely not.
So allowing that person to sell them the narcotic is
Sure.
really
You're enabling the dealer.
you're letting that person punch your child in the face.
Way worse.
Don't allow that. Don't allow that person to harm your child. Stand up for your child, report the
Advocate for
person, and get that person off the
And again,
streets.
that information can be 100% confidential.
Sure.
You know, we're not going to tell anybody that you provide that information to us and we're able to put somebody into jail. No one's going to know. That information, any tip, anything that we can get, that we can follow up on, we're going to go after, we're going to pursue it aggressively.
Sure.
We have a lot of officers that dedicate their lives to fighting this problem
Okay.
and putting bad people in jail.
Good. Good.
Any pill of any pill can be the death. The
Absolutely.
Yeah.
death dose that you don't know.
That one shot.
Or any
Yeah.
There's one
A
shot.
hot shot, right?
Do you
A
have
hot
anything as a mother you want to convey to our community?
Talk to the parents.
Yeah,
of-
talk to the
in our
parents if you just
community.
want to let them know.
Just be open about it, speak about it,
Yep.
you know, be aware of your child's friends, surroundings, behavior.
Yep.
Chime in.
Yeah, well, you're open
I mean,
arms too.
you
They
know,
can reach out to you and ask you.
They can reach out to me anytime. You know,
Just
Stephanie's
be
amazing too.
open
Be
to
open
getting
to them. Help. If they need help, don't be ashamed of it. You know, no family's immune to this.
Sure.
You know, it can happen to any family. Brandon was an amazing child. Grew up with a great, Junior.
Sure. Is there anything you can say to the parents that we say just another step further you may do today that you learned that you didn't know that was there before, or would you do it all over
Vivitrol
again?
shots. I did the naltrexone.
So you would do it all over
implant.
again, the same
I
way you
would
did
do
it,
it.
you would handle the
There's
same way.
nothing. I even did the naltrexone implant on him. I did.
Anything and everything.
I think
Yeah.
I did everything and
That's, I
everything.
guess the message
You
is
guys
do
always
anything
do.
and
I
everything.
would
Sometimes
don't
it's
give
just
up on
in
your
God's plan.
child.
It's not your
Sometimes
parents'
it's just
fault.
in God's plan.
It's in God's plan, and
At some point, like
he's God's child now.
Yeah.
Yes.
This
We
is-
just got to remember not to enable.
Sure.
That's the biggest thing.
Sure. And the parents
Just-
can be a little
Parents
bit at
gave us
fault
money.
too.
My
You know.
parents
I'm
give me a
sure I
nice
have
car.
faults, and I'm
My
sure I've
parents
done
leased the
things
car for me, so
wrong.
I
We're
never
not here
mind.
to say false
No,
because
and
again, it's
yeah.
an experience that you
I
took
mean,
on. There's
Nobody's perfect.
is there a
No.
real handbook how to
No, no.
completely fix the
I'm
problem?
sure
Or
you hear
to parents.
stories,
Or it's a parent, there is no handbook on any of that.
He's your
You
child.
can do the
You're
best
gonna-
that you can by the education of what you guys provide to educate us, right?
Absolutely.
We can take those steps.
Just
but
when
again,
you see that first sign, don't wait. Maybe that's what. Maybe I waited just that 1 month or that 2 months,
Yep.
and maybe
Immediate
it
help.
escalated.
I'm with you.
yep,
that-
immediate
that
help.
1
Don't
month-
shun it.
Don't-
Immediately
don't-
help it.
And I think that 2 months it escalated. No,
Yeah.
he's not. It did, and I think that 2 months it escalated.
It can escalate in a day.
In a day, exactly,
Mm.
because he goes to that friend, and that friend goes, "Oh, I'm out of that shit or that crap.
Yep.
Why don't you try this stuff? This
Ooh.
stuff is good, bro. That stuff is," and that's how I think it started.
It escalates from this to
You know,
this to
I don't
this.
got this stuff. This stuff is good.
Wow.
You know, it starts from, sniffing or shooting or, it starts from Xanax and, or whatever it is,
Mhm.
uppers and downers.
Sure.
Because that's what it is. It's uppers and downers because that's how they become functional.
Sure.
You do uppers and downers, correct?
Sure.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
10 years ago, yes.
I mean, not now.
Yeah.
I mean, you do
Yeah,
it, right?
but more
I would say
downers,
that
more downers
There's
it
still
was,
things that I
actually.
still educate my stuff with.
I would say.
I'm not,
Sure. As well as them, all three of them
I know,
sitting on this right now.
absolutely.
You guys are experiencing stuff that's new. Listen, I'm over 40 years old. He is too. We didn't grow up
Oh,
thinking this or seeing this. You
nothing.
know what I'm saying? So that's how you know so much time has changed that like it's this today, tomorrow is going to present itself with another one. We were fighting the war on drugs and marijuana 20 years ago.
Junior, you
Today we're like in an epidemic with crisis on opiates.
It's awful.
And it's hitting
Awful.
everybody.
Dunya, what would you say to parents?
One thing that I really like is have 60 10-minute conversations instead of one 60-minute conversation. So continue to talk about this with your kids. One thing that I grew up always hearing is addiction is genetic, and if it happens in your family or if it's happened to anyone in your family, it can happen to you. You know, we have like a 50% chance if we have someone in our family that struggled with addiction. And so that's always been in my head and always in my mind. I think another thing, just to kind of reiterate with parents that have people that are already struggling, is there are options for treatment. They don't have to wait. They can call the access line. They can go to Hope Not Handcuffs. If they have health insurance, you turn around your health insurance card. There's a number on the back of it. Literally, it will say, like, if you need help for mental health and substance use, call this number. You can call it and start the process. It just takes those steps. You can call Stephanie and even just come see someone at like a clinician, and they can help you through the steps, or get a peer recovery coach. There's a lot of options, and I think that's where like it gets difficult, because isn't just like a one-way approach, but we have to do something.
Sure.
Do
Lieutenant
something.
Maury,
What would you say to
yeah, Lieutenant Maury, what do you got to the community and the parents?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. It's just, staying informed, communication's key, and education. Starting young. If you're past that, kids are in high school, whatever else, still education, being involved in your kids' lives, right?
Communication.
Very involved.
Realize we have to make a living and everything else, but what's more important than family? So spending that time knowing what's going on with your child, picking up the signs whether they have an addiction problem or not, and then doing something about it and not being ashamed about it.
Sure.
What about you,
That's one
Stephanie?
thing about, I'm sorry, about Brandon. Like, he was very close to me and his dad. And,
Sure.
So like, when he would relapse, he would be like, Mom, they're tired.
Mhm.
It's
course.
exhausting.
I remember
And
crying
she's-
to my mom all the time.
It's
helping them.
exhausting.
Trying
They're
to jump
tired.
out your skin and just end
Mom,
it.
I'm tired. I need help. They don't. It's just
Give them all the
exhausting.
help
At
they
that
need.
point, it's-
They do, just be there and support them. But like I said, as soon as you see that first sign,
Get help.
Absolutely.
get help.
Over it.
Get
Yeah.
help.
Don't wait that day, that hour, that
That minute.
minute.
It's not
Every second counts.
Steph, anything you
Every
got to
second
say for
does
the
count.
for
I
the
mean,
community
honestly,
or
they
the
all
family?
said it, but really just like being aware, getting help.
Sure.
Don't be prideful. I'm sure you would agree. You would rather see your child in rehab than anything like
Like I
this.
said,
You know?
that-
So get them help, whatever it takes, anything and everything.
I just want to say that this is a very winnable thing, right?
Yes, sir.
We are seeing over the last 3 years, 4 years, we're seeing the numbers decline.
Beautiful.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
we're seeing the overdoses and the deaths decline in our community and nationwide.
Great.
So we're going to continue doing what we're doing till we
Sure.
win this battle.
Sure.
So but it takes everyone,
Yes, sir.
right? And being informed and being a part of the problem
Yes,
and
sir.
part of the solution. So
Yes, sir.
What about you? What do you want to say to the parents out there?
I would say it's going to be the hardest thing you'll ever have to do in your life. Absolutely the hardest thing. Harder than running a marathon, harder than earning millions of dollars, harder than anything, and you just have to stick it out, stick it out, stick it out, take the hard road, take the support, and just keep going, keep going. Don't enable, don't fall, and build them up the right way, not the wrong way. Not with money, not with cars, not with things, not with desires and materials, with you, with your presence. That will do so much more.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you guys have anything, as we're closing out right now, is there anything that we may have not touched on, any support or anything, comments that you'd like to give the viewers before we take off from this interview?
I'd say definitely call me if you're a young man struggling. I can certainly help you.
Young man or woman, right?
Young man or woman
Yep.
struggling, but
Yep.
especially like for that place,
Yep.
I would say, a lot of people could benefit from it, and it would make you very successful. And the rates are good.
Awesome.
So yeah, and if you want to just talk, I'd be happy to talk. I'm not going to judge you. There are other options.
And we'll include that.
There
We'll
are
include-
shorter options than that,
Yep.
and other places that I think are good. I
Sure.
like Dawn Farms. I'm not a big fan of it. There's different rehabilitation centers
Yep.
that do better things.
Yep.
And like Hope for Handcuffs, they're big with Dawn Farms. There's certain places that are better to guide them to.
Okay, that's awesome.
My
And we'll include a lot of stuff you guys are saying. So if any of the viewers want to reach out to them, you guys are welcome to. They've all offered the help. That's huge. Nobody's getting paid at this point in time. Everyone's
We're
looking
not.
just to be able to give, to give the assistance, in with this. And nothing wrong if you do have to pay for some of them, because some of them are professionally equipped to be able to handle you in that manner. Again, anything you guys any messages or anything?
Anything you want to add?
Anything you want to add? I think you guys did a great job. I want to thank each and every one of you. Each and every one of you has given a side that needed to be said. And with your work, our work, this work, we hope that we can save one life or more just by doing this out here today. So we commend each and every one of you. You guys face your own battles every day to deal with this. It's got to be toll taking, right? It can't be easy just seeing somebody go through hell. You're raising them back to heaven is what you're doing by getting them out of this situation. So again, thank you again. We will get this out there and let everybody see. Anthony, anything you want to close
No,
out
I
with?
just want to thank all of you for being
Thank
here.
you
Thank
guys.
you
for having
us.
Yeah, you guys all
for your
kick ass.
courage and
Yep.
your strength for being here.
Yep, thank you.
God bless
Appreciate
you
it.
guys.
Yep, thank you. Thank you.
Too.
Well, everyone, we're signing off right now with this wonderful group. Hopefully this message gets sent out and you guys can get this out there and share it with everybody. We thank you, and we're signing off with Keeping Up with the Chaldeans. Have a good one.